The old Chevrolet rumbled to a stop on the gravel driveway, its headlights cutting through the misty twilight. Four friends stepped out, their laughter fading as they took in the looming silhouette of the house before them. "This place looks ancient," Sanya muttered, pulling her jacket tighter. The wind carried a chill that seemed unnatural for summer. Rohan grinned despite the eerie vibe. "Come on, Sanya, this is going to be epic. A weekend getaway in an Airbnb with a haunted vibe? What could go wrong?" Aditya chuckled nervously. "Yeah, sure. As long as no creepy dolls or ghosts show up, I'm good." Neha stood apart from the group, her eyes fixed on the upper windows of the house. "Guys," she said softly, "does anyone else feel like we're being watched?" A sudden gust of wind rustled through the trees, carrying with it the faint sound of childish laughter. The friends exchanged uneasy glances. Neha's intuition was always sharp, and this time it seemed to be warning her of something. She had always been the quiet, observant one in the group, but her friends valued her insights. The front door creaked open, revealing a tall, gaunt man with deep-set eyes. "Welcome," he said in a monotone voice. "I'm Mr. Bhatnagar. Please come in." As they stepped inside, the floorboards groaned beneath their feet. The air was heavy with the scent of old wood and something else. Something sickly sweet that tickled the back of their throats. Mr. Bhatnagar led them through the house with a detached air. But as they approached a particular door on the second floor, he abruptly stopped. His expression darkened. "This area is off limits," he said firmly. "Some places have a way of forgetting. Best not to disturb them." Rohan's curiosity was piqued immediately, but he kept quiet, for now. Long after midnight, when the house had settled into an uneasy silence, Rohan found himself wide awake. The moonlight cast strange shadows on the wall, and he could have sworn they moved. A soft knock at his door made him jump. It was Aditya, looking pale and shaken. "I can't sleep," he muttered. "This place gives me the creeps." "Same here," Rohan admitted. "Let's check things out." Together, they wandered through the dimly lit hallways until they reached the second floor. The forbidden door stood slightly ajar now, though neither of them remembered opening it earlier. "Should we?" Aditya asked hesitantly. Rohan nodded and pushed it open. Inside was a cold room that seemed to breathe around them. In one corner stood an old rocking chair with a charred doll sitting on it, a doll whose button eyes seemed to follow their every move. Suddenly, Rohan noticed something unusual on a nearby shelf, an old diary coated in dust. He picked it up and opened it carefully. The pages were filled with childish handwriting that grew more erratic with each entry. "They don't see me anymore. Why can't anyone remember me? I'm fading, gone." Before they could process what they'd read, the door slammed shut behind them. The doll's head turned toward them with an audible crack as it spoke in a childlike voice. "Welcome to my room." Rohan and Aditya froze, their hearts pounding. The temperature in the room seemed to drop even further. Just as they were about to panic, they heard Mr. Bhatnagar's voice calling from the hallway. "Boys? Are you up there?" The doll's eyes dimmed, and it became motionless once again. The oppressive atmosphere lifted slightly. Rohan and Aditya exchanged a terrified glance before rushing out of the room, nearly colliding with Mr. Bhatnagar in the hallway. "I thought I heard noises," Mr. Bhatnagar said, his eyes narrowing suspiciously. "You shouldn't be wandering around at night. It's not safe." As they returned to their rooms, Rohan clutched the diary he had taken from the shelf, determined to uncover its secrets. Meanwhile, Neha stayed behind, feeling an inexplicable pull to the attic. She found an old trunk filled with photographs and letters. Among them was a picture of a young girl with beautiful eyes, Naina. Neha felt a sudden connection to the girl, as if she understood her loneliness. She tucked the photo into her pocket, determined to learn more about Naina's story. Morning brought no comfort. "Where's Neha?" Rohan asked as they gathered in the kitchen. Sanya frowned at him. "Who's Neha?" Rohan froze. His heart pounded as he scrolled through his phone for pictures from last night, only to find that Neha's face was missing from every photo. No, he stammered. But then he remembered Neha's words from the previous night. "I feel like we're being watched." He realized that Neha must have been taken by the curse because she was the first to sense its presence. Mr. Bhatnagar appeared in the doorway, his face grim. "It has begun," he said softly. "The room, it feeds on memories." "What do you mean?" Rohan demanded. Mr. Bhatnagar sighed deeply before explaining. "Years ago, a little girl named Naina lived here. Her parents left her alone in this house for days at a time until one day, they never came back. Forgotten by everyone who should have loved her, she faded away, first from their minds and then from existence itself." He paused before continuing in a whisper. "Her despair seeped into that room. Now it traps others in her fate, erasing them piece by piece until they too are forgotten." Determined to save Neha, Rohan convinced Sanya and Aditya to help him investigate further. As they searched for clues throughout the house, strange things began happening. Sanya found herself unable to remember her own parents' faces for several minutes. Aditya heard whispers calling his name from empty rooms. Rohan saw his reflection in a mirror, but it didn't mimic his movements. Instead, it smiled at him cruelly before fading away. Each experience left them more shaken but also more determined to uncover the truth about Naina and her curse. As they searched, Neha's absence weighed heavily on them. They found notes she had left behind, hinting at her growing connection to Naina's story. Neha had written about feeling seen by Naina, even when no one else noticed her. This realization made Rohan understand that Neha's disappearance was not just a random event, but a crucial part of the puzzle. Returning to the forbidden room that night, they were met by the floating doll once again. "You want her back?" it hissed mockingly. "Then prove you deserve to remember." The walls shifted around them as cryptic symbols appeared alongside a series of old toys on a dusty shelf. A spinning top, a rocking horse, a music box, and others. Rohan read aloud words scrawled across one wall. "My name is hidden in my sight. Find my beauty. Restore my light." Sanya gasped softly as she noticed something strange about each toy. Letters carved into their surfaces. N on one toy, A on another. Rohan and Sanya examined the toys carefully and guessed that her name might be Nalina. They arranged the toys accordingly. The doll began laughing maniciously as Aditya cried out in pain, his legs fading away beneath him like smoke. "Wrong!" it shrieked gleefully. Panicking now but desperate to try again quickly before Aditya disappeared entirely, Rohan rearranged the toys into another name. Ayana. This time Sanya screamed as her hands began vanishing before their eyes. "Stop!" Rohan shouted at the doll. "We're trying!" "Trying isn't enough," it sneered coldly. taking a deep breath to steady himself. Despite his terror and guilt over his friend's suffering so far, Rohan studied everything again. The symbols on the walls, the diary. Suddenly it clicked. Naina. Her name meant beautiful eyes. He remembered how all her entries spoke about being unseen, her eyes being ignored by those who should have loved her most. As they worked on the puzzle, Rohan remembered Neha's words about feeling connected to Naina. He realized that Neha's intuition might hold the key to solving the puzzle. With newfound determination, Rohan arranged the toys one final time, Naina, and placed them carefully in order. As he did, he felt Neha's presence around him, guiding him. The room shuddered violently as cracks appeared across both its walls and across the surface of its malevolent doll guardian. "You," whispered Naina's voice from within both doll and room, alike now trembling apart under weight not just of recognition but remembrance itself. "You truly see me?" "Yes," Rohan said firmly, despite tears streaming down his face. Now equal parts relief, sorrow, triumph, alike. As the doll shattered, Neha reappeared, her eyes no longer empty. She smiled faintly, and Rohan knew she was back. Together, they watched as Naina's spirit finally found peace. Neha whispered, "I felt her loneliness. I understood her pain." Rohan nodded, his eyes filled with tears. "You were the key to remembering her, Neha. Your connection to her story saved us all." And then she smiled faintly, just faintly enough, yet bright enough somehow, still even so, even then, even there, even now, even forevermore remembered. And then she was gone. As dawn broke, the friends stood outside the house, watching as it seemed to fade into the morning mist. Mr. Bhatnagar approached, a peaceful smile on his face for the first time since they had arrived. "You did it," he said softly. "After all these years, Naina is finally at rest." They looked at each other, forever changed by their experience. The weight of forgotten memories lingered, a reminder of the power of remembrance and the pain of being forgotten. Rohan spoke, his voice filled with emotion. "Forgetting isn't just a habit. It's like erasing someone's existence. But as long as someone lives in our memories, they're never truly lost." As they drove away, Rohan glanced in the rearview mirror. For a moment, he thought he saw a little girl waving goodbye, a smile on her face and a twinkle in her beautiful eyes. Then she was gone, not forgotten, but finally at peace. The house of forgotten memories stood silent, its curse broken, but its story forever etched in the minds of those who had faced its darkest secrets and emerged, changed but unbroken.